Welcome to this episode of the FutureProof-You podcast. Go F yourself. I am your co-host along with my colleagues Dan Yu and John Lovig. Good day, gentlemen. The topic for today is Q4 hiring trends, since we have two recruiters who are in the trenches in the LinkedIn search bar living this. We're going to start off with John. What have you seen most recently in terms of hiring trends? Like who's hiring, who's not, and what do job seekers need to know going into Q4
Yeah,
of 2025?
yeah. A lot of who I'm working with are tech companies, and a lot of them are hiring for people to enable AI in some capacity. So either I'm working with a lot of AI companies or AI enabled SaaS companies. So make with that what you will, but almost every single one of my clients has been talking about AI, and actually even roles where I have a client that's a um, like a software development services provider, right? They build 0 to 1 products. They're looking for people with AI skills, like AI first style recruiting. They're looking for marketers and an ops person who use AI to make their work better. So combination of AI as an actual role and then also how people use AI in their role. And then the other thing I've noticed is um, one, I'm working on a lot of high level, like executive level searches. So companies look like they're going to be growing again. And my most recent check on LinkedIn to see, get a pulse on who's hiring. As anyone who listens to this more than once probably knows, I always check what kind of recruiters are being hired to figure out what's going on in the market. And there's a high number of recruitment postings up, and a lot of them are for tech recruiters specifically.
Yeah, what about you, Dan? What's similar versus different in what you're seeing in Q4
Well,
hiring
I
right
think
now?
that it's a seasonal thing, right? And so even though there is a lot of job hugging, and we have seen in the past quarter the trend of the no fire, no hire. Seasonally, companies usually will hire in Q4 because they need to get things done before the end of the year, where a hiring manager might lose their hiring budget for the following year, so they have to spend the money. And so, I totally agree with John. That we're seeing it here as well. So, there's definitely a need for talent. I think that companies are a little bit more mindful, as John alluded to, with being AI first. They're definitely looking at people's skills and willingness to be AI first, right? Being AI, really mindful about how they go about their day. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of things moving, but it's kind of like the same story, different year.
Yeah. Yeah, this feels very similar to like
Yeah.
pre 2021, like when COVID started to unlock hiring. Now we didn't get the lows of COVID this year, but it feels like when we were going through 2020, this part of the season feels exactly the same to me. And then what happened after that was the hiring boom of 2021. So I'm hoping we don't have the same hiring boom, because that also resulted in a huge restructuring and tons of layoffs, right? Not too far after. I'm hoping companies can maybe just, you know, get it together and know who they have to hire, and, you know, predictably grow instead of just hire, fire, hire,
Yeah, the
fire. But we'll see.
overfire.
And Dan, could
Well,
you could you define the job hugging phrase for the people who didn't listen to our episode on that, and then tell us like what does that mean for job
so job
huggers?
hugging is when you really will do anything to stay in your job and not really risk going for a new job. Right. And so what does that mean for job huggers? Well, they're, going to take on maybe, a little more extra work. Maybe they'll, really make an effort to manage up so that their bosses know how great they're doing. All those little things, right? To make sure that they're not going to be put onto a list. And so, John, spoke about, overhired, overfire. That's definitely a thing. And, we've seen that, yes, there is a trend that more companies are going to be using AI, right? And so, that's this job hugging trend is real, right? They're trying to take on more things and then use AI to make themselves more effective in doing those extra tasks, which is a great thing, actually, right? Increased productivity. Um, I think there's going to be um, the new talent coming in, right? The younger talent, they're going to have to get those skills somehow, and so and then also demonstrate. And then if anybody that's out in the in the job market, they've been laid off maybe this year. We've seen so many people get laid off from government jobs. Um, companies that expanded too fast, right? The overhire. And so it's so important for people to be ready, right, at all times in case that does happen. And so super important to have a really strong, robust LinkedIn profile, right? And making sure that, periodically you're downloading, your contacts and, all of your accomplishments and making sure that you memorialize that, not just within the four walls of your company, but also on LinkedIn publicly and be proud of it.
I think too, you mentioned LinkedIn, and right now we're seeing a shift. Wow, what was that? We were talking about AI a moment ago, and then LinkedIn. Well, those two are getting a lot closer together than they were before too. The recruiter back end of LinkedIn, and we mentioned this in our AMA last week. It's shifting, it's changing. They're creating agentic AI, well, essentially AI agents to do two things. Way better, and that's finding candidates and writing messaging. And so now, as a recruiter, I can ask AI to go and search for specific criteria. If you don't have a profile for the AI to find, it might not show up for me. I might use AI to do a more sophisticated search than what I might normally do. Sometimes I actually go in with, all right, here are the target companies I'm going after, and I'll look at titles against that company. Other times I need more specific experience, and so I'll filter down. Those agents might not capture those folks, and we don't know how it's going to behave because we don't know how agentic AI search is going to apply.
Well,
to
it's
LinkedIn.
always important to make sure you have the keywords right in your LinkedIn profile and use the ubiquitous, right, the commonplace keywords that will go across industries, not just be specific to you. Right.
And why not both, right?
Yeah.
The specific and common.
Yeah, and
it's just more
and
data.
frequency matters. We've seen that, right, John? So having more mentions of keywords is better than less.
Well, frequency, and then one thing we don't usually talk about, but that's important is recency, right? Because sometimes I'm doing a search, and what people don't realize is when you put in keywords and LinkedIn search parameters, it highlights them on the page. And if I'm looking for something really specific, and I'm like, this is an actual example, I was looking for someone who has agentic AI experience, who's an engineer. If I don't see agentic in their current job, I'm assuming they don't actually have it because it's a relatively new term. So if it's not in their about section or their current job, I might scroll one more down to see. But at a certain point, I'm like, oh, for some reason it's not showing up, or it's like one of those endorsed skills at the very bottom that's collapsed. And so if you are doing something like that and you're not calling it out in your current role and you're just using the skills section to call it out, you're actually really hurting yourself, because the way that we process information and make a determination has to be pretty quick so we can actually get candidates in front of our clients as fast as possible.
And one of Dan's favorite ways to do that is pin a post about the thing that you want the recruiters to see, because you get 3 posts that show up. So as someone's scrolling down from your banner and profile picture down, let's say, as recruiters, is it fair to say you get 6 to 8 seconds to either confirm or go on to the next candidate? That's like how the window of time to engage your interest.
Yeah, I would say that's a fair assessment.
Okay. So one of the things you can do to get that in there, besides, keyword packing with both the spelled out term and the acronym, is make sure one of your first 3 pinned posts also speaks to, let's say you're an engineer looking for the agentic AI role, is have an article or a video or a post about that thing. And it's just another way to go confirm, confirm, confirm. I'm seeing this everywhere on their profile.
I mean, the way I use it as a recruiter even is I pin every job that I post so that the 3 most recent ones show up underneath me, so you can get an example of what I recruit for. Um, and you could also just sort of see what I'm actively working on at any given time.
Yeah. And so last question, Dan, we talked about knockout questions in the interview. What about knockout mistakes in a LinkedIn profile? As you scroll through someone's profile looking for are they suitable for this role? What's something that makes you go, nope, done?
Well, I've done some recruiting for some communications and marketing roles, and if they don't have good examples in posts of things that they might have worked on, you're in communications, you're in marketing, you're in a creative style role. You should have things in your posts about the things you've worked on, and you should be proud of them. And if you're not, is that the subliminal way of saying that you don't really care about your work? So that's been standing out recently. Um,
And I'm actually working on a marketing role right now where the hiring manager, if the person doesn't have a professional picture and if they don't have a background, the client's
yeah,
very sus about it because they feel you're the front facing person
yep.
for our brand, right? You're the senior most marketer in our business, and you don't even have a profile picture up, right? And so that's something that does
Well,
come up
we'll
too.
be talking about these things right in our classes coming up. So, is it? It's
Yeah.
November 6th is our LinkedIn quick
November 6th is our live
LinkedIn
course.
quick start guide.
Yeah.
If you're, if, yep, if you're listening to this at a time where that's not relevant and timely, you can find the downloadable version if you go to futureproof-you.com. And we'll have a list of upcoming live classes if you want that format, or downloadable asynchronous ones that are recordings and you get the video and you get the notes along with it if you want to work at your own pace. Yeah, well, gentlemen, thanks for joining for another episode of Future-Proof-You's podcast, Go F Yourself. It's time to sign off and let you recruiters go hire some roles for Q4. I'm your co-host, Aaron McKelkey, joined by Dan Yu and John Lovig. It's been a pleasure helping you listeners take control of your career today. We'll see you on LinkedIn and on futureproof-you.com.